Good afternoon, everyone from London, and welcome to Responsible Business Awards, the international categories. Thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is hosted by myself, Elizabeth Lincoln. I am the Program Manager for Sustainable Business Models and Purpose here at Business in the Community, and my colleague Sabira, Program Manager of International Disaster Relief and Resilience. And we also have a guest speaker on the line today, Samir, who is going to be presenting he's the award winner from last year from the Global Development Award, and we'll be hearing from him shortly. So during this webinar today, we'll give you a taste of last year's winning entries. Like I said, we'll be hearing directly from Samir Misal, the Chief Development Officer of Water Health International, the winners of last year's Unilever Global Development Award, supported by Business Fights Poverty. And then we'll be going into detail, quite a lot of detail, about the application process, followed by a Q&A session. So during this time, if you have any questions regarding the webinar, do please send in your questions through the chat function, and we'll discuss them right at the end of the webinar. So, the Unilever Global Development Award, supported by Business Fights Poverty. So for those of you who are interested in this award is dedicated to recognizing businesses that can demonstrate positive impact against one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we're looking for strong entries from companies which are advancing the Sustainable Development Goals through specific programs. So this could involve programs that work towards addressing poverty, inequality, community investment, environmental protection, climate change, and more generally, any program that you have that is dedicated to inclusive economic development. Our award has been running for about 15 years now, and has been sponsored by Unilever for the past 3 consecutive years and supported by Business Fights Poverty. It's an extremely important award as it rewards companies which align commercial strategy and innovation with the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goal ethos, or integrate the Sustainable Development Goals into their approach to sustainability. As all of our awards, this award is applicable to companies of all sizes. So just to give you a taste of past finalists, this includes a fantastic partnership last year from Barclays and JSK, Agro-America, Mondelez International, Twinings, GEEL Medical Services, and JSK again. So on our website, we've got a very, very big library of case studies, so we welcome you to go see them and get inspired by them. Now, the deadline for this award is the 9th of February 2018, so do please put that in your diaries.
Now, for those of you who are interested in the UPS International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award, this category recognizes businesses that are helping communities prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. This award is sponsored by UPS and is supported by the UK Department for International Development, and it is in its 5th year of running. Past finalists have included some larger companies such as Zurich, British Airways, MasterCard, GlaxoSmithKline, and more, and some of the smaller company winners have included Dr. Ziggs and What 3 Words. Now, in terms of the award itself, entries can focus on any aspect of the disaster management cycle, and this is something that we're really trying to promote in this year's round of the award, especially with the sort of increased emphasis on the Sustainable Development Goals. We're really looking for companies who are pushing the boat out in engaging more in preparedness, longer-term recovery, and resilience as well. The entries can focus on a specific international disaster that has occurred any time within the last 7 years, or on an overall global or regional program or strategy. And we're interested in hearing about support to disasters that are caused by either natural hazards, man-made conflict, or other man-made activity, or a combination of these, so looking at sort of more complex disasters. We're also really interested in programs that demonstrate both a social benefit and have a very clear business case. So looking into some of last year's winning entries, and specifically on these 2 awards, there were 2 award winners for last year's award category in International Disaster Relief and Resilience. one large company and one smaller company. So Cisco was the large company winner last year, and they won for their tactical operations program, which has 350 trained responders that can get anywhere in the world within 72 hours to reconnect communities. And What Three Words was the smaller company winner, and they won for their global addressing system. And so what they've done is they've divided the world into a grid of 3 meter by 3 meter squares and assigned each one with a unique 3-word address, which provides a precise and incredibly simple way to talk about location that anyone can use. They partner with numerous humanitarian and disaster response organizations, helping them to reach people in need and distribute aid in disaster situations.
Similarly, the Unilever Global Development Award, supported by Business Fights Poverty last year, also had 2 winners. So we had Sunny Money as the first winner, which they're the largest distributor of solar lights in Africa, and their mission is to eradicate the kerosene lamps from Africa by 2020. Quite a fantastic program, so we would very much encourage you to go read their program, which is on our website. And of course, we had Water Health International, our second winner. And at this stage, I will not go into any detail as we have Samir on the line, and it's my great pleasure to hand you over to him, who will talk to us about their submission from last year. Samir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and pleasure to be here on the call with everybody. And also, obviously, very proud to be the recipient of the award last year. What I thought I'd do today is give a brief overview of what we do as a business and why we applied for the award, how we felt it fit with the mission of the award, and how we've been using the award over the past 6 to 8 months since we received it in July of last year, and how we use it in our day-to-day business. So the first point I'd like to make is we were very excited in 2015 when the United Nations changed the mandate or the goals from Millennium Development Goals to Sustainable Development Goals, because we felt like sustainability was really very core to ensuring that whatever initiatives we do to eradicate poverty or eradicate or improve health, education, etc., in markets that we operate in is extremely crucial. And by putting sustainable front and center into the goals itself, raise the profile of sustainability to a level which had not been done before. I remember back in the 2009-2010 timeframe when we were just getting started and we would talk about sustainability and actually charging for water, it was taboo. Most people and most companies felt like it should be a free resource. And what we always felt was that in order to provide the service in a sustainable fashion, there needs to be at least some nominal cost associated with it, so that you could actually ensure the initiative or continued in the long run. And so that's what we as a company focus on. And we kind of turned the beverage or liquid consumption model upside down. And I'll explain what I meant by that. Traditionally, if you think about water, especially in the utility front, you have typically large plants which take many years to build, that cost lots of money, and you have to transport purified water to your homes. And that's a very expensive proposition. And when you actually look at the consumption in homes, only about 3% of the water actually needs to be purified to the drinking water standards. The rest of the water, for example, in your flushing, in your washing your car, watering your garden, washing your dishes, etc., does not need to be purified. And the model that is used universally is that you purify 100% of the water, and 100% of clean water comes to your home. And what we felt is that in the markets that we operate, which is primarily bottom of the pyramid in Africa and Asia, those kinds of solutions would be extraordinarily expensive and take way too much time to implement. And also, most of the utilities don't even have the resources to implement them. So we started building decentralized water purification plants, which are extremely small. They're about 15 to 20 meters square, and but using equipment that purifies water to the same international standards that all of us drink. And we do it in a very cost effective and efficient manner, so that the price that we charge is extremely low. For example, we charge about 1 US cent per liter of water, which is obviously extremely cheap. Uh, and our business model, which is really based on scale, is to build many of these plants and sell as much water as we can from each plant, and thereby realizing all the efficiencies and economies of scale that result from that. And so far, we have over 700 plants running now in 3 countries. In Ghana, which is actually where I am right now. I just flew in today to review our operations here. Nigeria and India. We impact about 7 million people on a day-to-day basis. Our goal is to multiply that by at least 10 times in the next 5 years. And so we have very ambitious plans, but we believe that the scale of our operations will allow us to do that. And we've tried to build scale into every facet of our business. For example, when we build our plants, we build them in clusters. So it allows us, our operations team, to manage them more efficiently. We have a technology platform that allows us to remotely monitor the operations of our plants, so that as you add more plants, it's easier for us to ensure that they're operating at peak efficiency. The way we use financing also is extremely efficient. That's a bit more complicated discussion, so I won't get into it unless people have questions on it. But the whole sustainability angle is based on scale, and one of the reasons why we applied for the development award was one of the key aspects was, can you execute your business to impact as many people as possible? And we felt like we had a platform in which we could do that, which is one of the key reasons why we applied. Obviously, the other parameters also helped in terms of sustainability, clean water, which is number 6 on the Sustainable Development Goals. So that's obviously one that we hit head on. But there's a whole bunch of other categories, for example, education, health, which we also affect in terms of the SDGs. The way we've been using the award since we got it is a few different ways. So one is every one of our presentations has the award front and center as a key achievement of ours in the last year. So that's every presentation we make, either in conferences, to other corporates, to financing entities. It's a part of it, and it carries a lot of weight because obviously there's very reputable organizations that stand behind it. The BITC, obviously, Business Fights Poverty, and also Unilever. So very reputable organizations, and gives us as a relatively small company a lot of gravitas, and so that's one way we use it. In the other way we use it is in terms of all our social media marketing also has a lot of it. So all our Twitter feeds and Facebook, we've used it extensively there. And we've also used the award to start working with some of the companies that are partners with the BITC, Unilever being one of them. We've got a fairly extensive partnership discussion going on with them that will cover not just India, but also other markets that we are interested in. Obviously, Unilever is global, and we're working with them to see how we can leverage what we are doing with them in India across multiple geographies. So for us, it's been a big catalyst to driving that partnership, and it can affect our overall scale and expansion fairly significantly if we're able to execute like we think we can. So I'll stop there. I know I've taken up about 10 minutes, which was allocated to me. Elizabeth, did I cover everything?
That's fantastic, Samir. Thank you so much. Really, really, really appreciate you being on the line and sharing your fabulous experience with everyone. I'm sure it's going to provide everyone with a lot of encouragement to also apply for our awards.
One thing I didn't mention. Sorry, some of the key, some of the key tips, I guess, of applying. I think a couple of them come to mind. One is the more you can quantify the impact that you're making with both, your own internal metrics, but also external metrics, if you have any, that will go a long, long way to making your case. And the other one, I think, is really thinking about whatever you've done, how can you scale it? Right? How can you make sure that, or communicate to the judges that the platform that you've built can, scale in an efficient manner? I think that communicating that clearly and concisely, I think, is a critical aspect of the award process as well.
Certainly. So, we couldn't agree more that the criteria you've just mentioned is absolutely key to submitting a really great case study. So thank you so much. And joining us all the way from Africa. That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So unfortunately, we couldn't get a speaker for last year's winner for the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. But there is a key quote from Joe Clark, who is the account manager at What 3 Words. And I mentioned What 3 Words just briefly earlier. So they're the company that have developed a global addressing system. And Joe was saying that they entered the UPS International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award last year, really to help increase the recognition of their technology and the services it can deliver to governments, organizations, and citizens responding and preparing for disaster situations. And she also said that both applying for and winning the award has provided benefits, generating positive PR and coverage, strengthening our profile and reputation within a key field for our business, and continuing to validate the excellent work of the What 3 Words team, who are passionate about the business of technology for social good. So now looking at the actual application process, it's incredibly simple. There's 3 key steps. And it's all online. So you simply go on to www.bitc.org.uk/awards to view all of the categories for this year, and you can access the awards portal that way. And then you just follow a simple registration process to view the online entry forms. And then you complete all of the sections of the form, attach your company logo and other supporting files, and submit before the deadline, which is the 9th of February. Now, looking into the sections in a little bit more detail, there are 4 key sections, and we're going to go through them step by step, but just to provide you an overview. The first section is a non-scored section. The second section is looking at the purpose of the program or the initiative, and this accounts for 10% of the overall scoring. Then there's section 3, which is looking at management and engagement of the program or initiative, and that accounts for 30%. And then there's the last section, which is looking at the impacts and achievements, and this is sort of the most heavily weighted section, which is at 60%. And then lastly, we also require you to fill out a partner verification form, which we'll explain in a little bit more detail afterwards.
Okay. So now looking into the first section, the non-scored section. Now, even though this section is not scored, per se, it is a key part of the award submission due to the fact that this information provides the assessors a really good overview of what is to come. In other words, it really sets the scene. Also, some of the information that's captured in this section is used for trend analysis following the awards. Therefore, do be as thorough as possible in this section. So essentially, this section, whilst not scored, it does help set the scene to tell us your story. For example, in the past, both shortlisted and winning entries that tell stories and share best practices have featured in publications and on our website. So some key tips just for this section. Share with us any links you have to videos, articles, blogs, quotes from partners, and throughout, and where you've got photos and graphs and charts, do please include them. So now we're going to look at an example from the Unilever Global Development Award non-scored section, just a few questions that are asked. So we've got questions asking you to provide a description of your program or partnership and where you actually have an impact. Which of the sustainable development goals is your program addressing, as well as which targets within the SDG framework is your program addressing. You're also asked to provide a quote from your CEO or equivalent that endorses the program and why other businesses should really follow what you're doing. A tricky one, but very key to the award submission, is to summarize the top line societal and environmental impacts, as well as the top line business benefits that your program has brought to you, to your company, and to indicate the number of direct beneficiaries that your program has impacted. So for this section, a bit of a top tip is to complete it at the end of the form. So once you've actually finished the entire application, then go back to the non-scored section and complete it. You might find that it's easier to do so whilst refreshing your memory and not missing any key parts that you'd want to include in these questions. So yes, that's for the Global Development Award.
So just as Elizabeth has explained what to expect in the non-scored section for the Global Development Award, very similar in the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. It's really just key information to set the scene for the assessor, as well as data to aid our trend analysis. In addition, in the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award, we're also looking to gather sort of the geographical area, type of disaster supported, really looking to understand what phases of the disaster management cycle are addressed. So again, whether that's preparedness phases, relief, recovery, resilience, disaster risk reduction, and so on. And also, we're really trying to understand the ways in which your company has contributed, so whether it's sort of cash contributions, volunteering, donations, skills exchange, and so on. So moving on to section 2 of the application, which is the purpose section. This one is worth 10% of the overall score, and that's the case for both the Global Development Award and the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. And really what this section covers is sort of the objective of the program or the initiative, also sort of how the program aligns with your business or your business model, what the business case is for action, and what part of the disaster management cycle it addresses for the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. And in the case of the Global Development Awards, really trying to put down which goals and targets of the SDGs are being addressed. So this is an example of the scoring grid for the purpose section, and this one is taken from the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. So just to explain, for each of the awards there is a scoring grid that is available to applicants, and they clearly set out what information is required in each section of the application to receive top marks. It's a super useful tool. We would recommend downloading it when you're filling out your application. They're both available on the website, really useful. So if we look at this example, you can see the score breakdown for the purpose section. Again, this is for the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. And if you look at this grid, you can see that to score well for the purpose section, the entry should really include an identification of the target groups, objectives of the program, evidence of key performance indicators, and an indication of how business is leveraging its core competencies to support humanitarian efforts. Now, in order to get an excellent score, in addition to what I've just listed, it's also really key that the entry includes sort of some information on the specific challenge within international disaster relief and resilience or the humanitarian sector that is actually being tackled through this initiative. and also very clearly set out what the company aims and values are. So let's see an example of this. So this is quite small, but here is an example of 2 entries from the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. And just to provide an overview, on the left-hand side, we've got Company X, and they're outlining the purpose of their safe drinking program. And so it talks really about how the technology developed is also great, it also has great societal benefits. So basically how it's leveraging its core competencies. It also identifies the issue or the need for clean water in the wake of disasters, as well as target groups. And it also mentions the business case for the initiative. If we look at the right-hand side, we can see that Company C here is providing an overview of a program aimed at re-establishing livelihoods and rebuilding infrastructure following a typhoon. And we can see here that this entry is providing a very brief description of the program and a rationale for it. And it's also describing the purpose. But here it's sort of describing the purpose as being to help its customers recover from the storm so that the company can re-establish its profitability. And so we can quite clearly see here that while Company C provides quite a good overview, Company X goes into the specifics required for excellence and really sort of looks at how it is leveraging its core competencies and how it's also sort of supporting a sort of a wider social agenda. So looking at the next section of the application, this one is worth 30% of the overall score and is really looking at management and engagement. And so this covers how your program or initiative is managed and monitored, and that includes sort of how much is being invested in the program, and that can be in terms of finances or staff hours and so on, but also sort of what the business's approach is to managing this, and how the program is being measured, and whether there are sort of key indicators for measuring this. So here is another example of a scoring grid, and so this is covering the management and engagement section, and this is also from the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. And as you can see here in this scoring grid, in order to score well in this management and engagement section, the entry should really include an evidence of what resources are being invested in the program. Also, it should include sort of whether targets are set, evidence of effective management processes and what that actually looks like, and also an evaluation of performance. And in order to sort of push that up to get an excellent score, the entry should also include, in addition to what I've just mentioned, sort of the outstanding systems to monitor and evaluate the program, and also what processes there are to manage the program and the outstanding execution of this. So let's move on to see an example. So here is an example of 2 entries again, and this one was also from the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award. And we can see here that Company X on the left-hand side are providing a great overview of their safe drinking program. They're providing a breakdown of funds invested. They're providing a description of the staff involved in the management of the program. And they're also providing an explanation and justification for their targets. Now you can see on the right-hand side, we've got Company C, and they're providing a breakdown of the funds invested. They're providing a very detailed overview of the management structure of the program, including an organogram. And they've provided a very clear description of how goals and budgets are set and who monitors them within the team. So where Company X is providing a really good overview, Company C goes into the specifics required for the excellent mark.
Okay, so now let's see an example from a scoring grid from the Unilever Global Development Awards supported by Business Fight Policy. So for question number 3, for the engagement, for the management and engagement ask, how do you ensure engagement of your program with all your stakeholders? So to score well, what we would expect to see is strong evidence that at least 2 stakeholder groups are involved in the process, as well as involvement from senior management. We would want to see evidence of employee engagement across a variety of departments and all locations, of course, evidence of key performance indicators, and that the program is supported by your external stakeholders as well. Now, if you're looking to enter an excellent entry, which is what we're looking for, we would like to see evidence that demonstrates exemplary levels of leadership commitment and action, and evidence that demonstrates business-wide employee commitments from external stakeholders as well. So let's see what this looks like in practice. So we've got two examples here. Our first example, Company A, on the left, has gone into detail about how employees were engaged with the program from the very first day, meaning from the assessment process to the consultation, all the way to the actual implementation of the program. They also go into detail on how the employees engaged with the beneficiaries as well, which had a great return for the program. Now, from a senior management perspective, it clearly states that from day one, senior management were on board and kept abreast of all the developments from their own initiative. In addition to this, the management committee also had an opportunity to engage with beneficiaries as well through different events, and that's something that they did, quite unique as a program. And as for external stakeholders, Company A was well aware of the importance of engaging with external stakeholders such as local government units. And they go into detail as to how not only they got external engagement with them, but they also got them to be partners of the program itself, which again brought massive returns for the program's success. So now let's compare that and look at Company B, which is on our right. Company B, albeit a really good response, they provided a more general answer on how employees are engaged based on mandatory sustainability trainings, which weren't necessarily directly linked to the program. And they shared that senior management were kept informed about the program rather than actually being part of it. So they weren't part of the genesis of the program at all. As for external stakeholder engagement, Company B what they were doing was sending quarterly updates to keep them in the loop of the latest developments. So again, external stakeholders weren't really part of the whole process. They were more just kept updated. So hopefully we can see the difference between the two answers that clearly state the employee engagement approaches. One is slightly more quantitative and qualitative at the same time and goes into the impact more, whereas the other is slightly more generic, if you like. Now we're going to jump into section 4, which is the impact and achievement section, and this part is equivalent to 60% of the entire submission, so quite an important section of the submission. It covers societal impact, so who benefited from the program, details of the outputs of the program, the overall medium and longer term impacts that you've considered for your program, the business benefits, which is something that our assessors and judges really look into detail there, the business case of the program, and generally what makes your program exemplary. So let's see an example now from the scoring grid for the Unilever Global Development Award, supported by Business Fight Poverty, for the question of how do you monitor and measure the progress of your initiative. So to score well here, what we would want to be seeing is that there's strong evidence of specific measurable targets for both businesses and society, socio-environmental benefits. Describe very well the effective management processes that monitor progress against the set targets. And we would like to see evidence that the business consults internal and external stakeholders and learns from this process simultaneously. To have an excellent score, to get full marks, what we'd want to see is full evidence of outstanding management structures and systems that set the targets. Ways that you monitor and review the results to establish continuous improvement, very, very key point of the scoring grid. Thorough and transparent two-way dialogue with internal and external stakeholders, and importantly, that the business learns from the process of engagement and uses the learnings that it's got to improve the program constantly. So let's see what this looks and feels like on paper. So Company A, on our left, provides specific information which is required for excellent marks. That's how the judges saw it. So, for example, this program, which focuses on people in poor urban communities to have access to clean, safe, and affordable water, provides specific information about both the environmental and societal impacts and achievements the program has had since its inception. It describes the results in both quantitative and qualitative measures. This is something that we couldn't emphasize enough. We very much want to be seeing both evidence, quantitative and qualitative. And it also provides quotes from the beneficiaries themselves of how the program really improved their day-to-day lives. So it made it just a tad bit more real. Now let's look at the Company B, which is on our right, which provides a good overview. Now this program looked into eradicating invasive plant species from a national park. Their answers were largely qualitative and took an approach of describing what they were doing rather than really emphasizing the impacts and achievements of the program itself. So, for example, whilst the benefits are described well, from creating jobs, preserving natural vegetation, all the way to increasing the attractiveness of the national park as an actual touristic hotspot, a trick was really missed by not providing additional information on, for example, how many jobs were created, how many new visitors were attracted to the national park. How did this actually positively influence the county? So this example, as I said, it was a good overview, but it could have gone that extra mile to provide us a bit more information of the actual impact that the achievements had. So moving on, let's now see another example of question 6. So what are the business benefits of the program initiative? This is again for the Global Development Award. So what would we like to see in this section? We would like to see evidence of internal and external stakeholders being engaged, definitely. Evidence of beneficiary engagement and consideration of their feedback on the program. That's something that is quite rare to see, so if you've got a story, do please bring that part up. Evidence of employee engagement. And then if you're looking to submit an exemplary entry, then we would like to see you would demonstrate exemplary levels of leadership of your program, demonstrate your employee-wide engagement, and the commitment that you've received from external stakeholders. Like I said earlier, again, in qualitative and quantitative measures. So again, what would this look like on paper? So here we have, in a bit, we will have 2 case studies. Hopefully, there we go. So the 2 case studies are, we've got in Company A, on our left, we can see that the business benefits are clearly articulated by representative figures, showing that by 2015, the program has increased the clientele of the company, so therefore it brought in extra revenue. And then it proceeds to go into more quantitative and qualitative detail on how Company A has benefited from the program. Then, in addition to the above, it states quite clearly and simply and effectively 7 ways the company benefited from, and it ranges from reduced water losses all the way to being able to be abreast with regulatory compliance. So it lists them very, very factually, if you like. Now let's look at Company B. This company took a more qualitative approach and describes how the program has had a positive influence on the brand image of the company, as well as the impact that it had on the triple bottom line. It's missed a trick, of course, by not providing direct business benefits that we can measure. So the key word here is measure. Again, although Company B, it was a good explanation, it wasn't something that we could necessarily, well, the judges and our assessors could necessarily measure. Therefore, it definitely missed a trick in relation to Company A.
So here is the scoring grid for the last question in the impacts and achievement section, and this example of the scoring grid is from the Global Development Award as well. And as you can see in this scoring grid, in order to score well, an entry should demonstrate the positive impacts of the program or the initiative, and some indication of the innovative nature of the program. And that's really key. And in order to get an excellent entry, in order to get an excellent score, the entry should include some sort of exemplary element which has had an outstanding positive impact. So let's see an example of this. So here's an example of two different. Ooh, hang on, this is the wrong one. One moment. Perfect, this is the right one. So here we've got two different examples of entries for the Global Development Award. And very quickly, on the left-hand side, Company A explains how the business challenge has been solved through socially responsible means. It talks about how the program has enabled the company to develop stronger ties within beneficiary communities, and how this has given birth to yet another program. So how the program has been scaled up and replicated. On the other side, Company B explains how its Passion of Sustainability program has grown to encompass the 3 pillars of sustainability, and how it applies different principles and how it's engaged its employees. And so where Company B on the right-hand side has provided a really good overview of the answer, the Company A goes into the specifics required for the excellent score, namely explaining how it has had an exponential impact.
Okay, and finally, coming to the end of the submission of the awards, both awards require a partner verification, basically that it verifies that everything that you say is in line with your partner as well. The purpose of the partner verification form is basically to provide external endorsement that the program has had a positive contribution to society. This should be completed by a representative from an external partner that you've worked with on the program, and we would strongly advise you to engage with them as early as possible, as it can take a while. This is our experience so far. So yes, do that. Keep that in mind. So up to now, we've gone through the key sections of the application. We've provided you with some examples of entries. So for both awards, a comprehensive guidance document can be found online, as well as the scoring grids that we've just talked about. The links have been provided, but if you have any issues, do please contact us. You've got our contact details on the screen. In regards to deadlines, so the main deadline we need to think of at the moment is the 9th of February. So if you do need, again, any assistance with your submission itself, please contact us. Now, in regards to other key dates, we've got 7 key dates for you. So the first one, as stressed, is the submission deadline on the 9th of February. Then in March 2018, we've got the second stage, which is the assessment process of the awards. And then in April, which is quite a big month for everyone who's submitting their stories, we've got the results that are revealed through emails. And then the awards long list announced publicly on the 24th of April. So do keep your emails open then. Fifth big key date is May 2018, which is the judging day. And finally, in June and in July of 2018, that's where we announce publicly the award winners of 2018. So respectively, we'll have the award finalists announced, the Responsible Business Gala in Wales and in Northern Ireland. So if there's anyone on the line from Wales and Northern Ireland, the gala will be in June. And then we'll have the London one where the winners will be announced at the annual Responsible Business Gala in Central London, again in July of 2018. So, like I said, couldn't stress enough, the 9th of February is the deadline. The awards team are quite strict about that, so do please send it in time. And that's about it from us so far. So now we can pop into the Q&A section. Right, so there are several questions here. We'll try to get through as many as possible. If we don't have any questions, if there isn't enough time, if I haven't answered your question, then just let us know and we'll take it offline and send you an email.
Sure. So we've got the first question here, which is there any flexibility on the deadline? Unfortunately, there is no flexibility around the deadline. There is a hard deadline, which is the 9th of February, 2018. We would really strongly encourage you to get your applications in beforehand. It's usually sort of a rush to the finish line, so it would be great if you could get those done as early as possible. And as Elizabeth mentioned, with the partner verification form, it's really key that you reach out to your partners well in advance so that you're not sort of prohibited from applying for that reason.
Excellent. And I'm seeing another question which is quite relevant to the flexibility of the deadline so what support can BITC give an application? As long as you don't leave it to the last day, you can receive a lot of guidance and support from BITC. If you're a member company, you can go directly to your corporate advisor, who'll be able to give you as much assistance as needed. If you're not, you can also contact us, so myself, Elizabeth, or Sabira, and we'll give you a call and talk about your inquiry. Another question has come in of, can applications come from anywhere in the world? Indeed they can. So both these categories are international, so the scope is on an international level. So anywhere in the world you are, please submit your story. And again, it doesn't matter the size of your company, both awards are applicable to everyone all around the world, internationally.
There's a question here about what top tips we've got. I sort of mentioned it for the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award, but as I said, this year we're really encouraging companies to apply who are sort of engaged across the entire disaster management cycle. So if you're engaged in building the resilience of communities towards sort of future disaster risks, we want to hear from you. If you're doing, if you have an initiative that's working on emergency preparedness, we really want to hear from you. If you're engaged with disaster risk reduction, apply.
Yeah. And another question is, what top tips do you have? So throughout the webinar, we've provided a few of the top tips. So Samir said it quite rightly, just to be as thorough as possible, particularly around the impact that you have in quantitative and qualitative measures. That's really, really key. I couldn't stress enough from the Unilever Global Development Award, supported by Business Fights Poverty, about really being able to thoroughly describe the impact that your program is having, both socially and environmentally. Very, very key. But also something that should be included is, as you're describing what your program has achieved so far, I think you'd get some brownies by adding what you're also looking to bring in the next 5 to 10 years, what your indications would be as such. As for other top tips, there's we can follow up with anyone who needs more information. There's lots of information that we can share. Another thing would be just to generally go onto our website and look at the library of our awards, and just to kind of get a feeling of who's applied in the past, the winners, the company size, generally what their purpose was. There's you'll find that most award winners have a very strong purpose, and I feel that as possible throughout your submission, that's going to be quite key in getting very high scores. And just generally being as descriptive as possible around which sustainable development goals you're addressing, particularly the targets. Yes, just be as thorough as possible. And I think that the best tip would actually be to contact us if there's any assistance that you need. Please call us or email us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. That would be probably about it from me. Sabira, how about yourself? Do you have any top tips that I might have forgotten?
Not really, other than to really just have a thorough look at the guidance document and the scoring grid. I mean, if you have the scoring grid in front of you as you're completing the application, it will be very difficult for you to go wrong, really.
Yeah.
And as Elizabeth said, we're both here, Elizabeth for the Global Development Award and myself for the International Disaster Relief and Resilience Award, and we're ready to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, and I suppose just to put an additional emphasis on what Samir said, which he couldn't have said it better, around the scale and impact that your program is having. So do think of that and try to be as descriptive as possible around your scale and impact your program. And also being able to share your three top tips towards other companies to encourage them would also be a very, very beneficial part for business and the community, for yourselves, and generally to inspire other companies to apply to submit their stories. I believe that will probably be all for us. We are actually letting you go 9 minutes early. So we hope you found this session helpful. Lots of information on BITC's website, and as you have here, you have our email addresses. So on that note, we will let you go, wishing you a lovely evening and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.